Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the second installment of the GBA Europe Roundtable series. This is a partnership between Macau Business, Great Bay Express, and Rui Cunha Foundation. We are really fortunate for having you all here and welcome all of you who are following us via Facebook Live. This is indeed a very fascinating and critical juncture that we are, and we are honored for having what a distinguished panel of speakers here with us. The topic is Europe, China from a Greater Bay Area perspective, and indeed relations between Europe and China stand at a pivotal juncture shaped by once-in-a-lifetime geopolitical shifts. 50 years after the establishment of diplomatic relations between the People's Republic of China and the then European Economic Community, nowadays European Union, both sides are gearing up for the much anticipated EU-China summit, expected to take place in about a month, towards late July. And this roundtable aims to explore the challenges, the opportunities, the future prospects for Sino-European relations and cooperation. And of course, since we are here in the Macau SAR, here in the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, what about the wider GBA perspective in this evolving landscape? What prospects lie ahead for Sino-European trade, investment, and people-to-people exchanges, and many other questions will be explored in this roundtable. This is the second installment of a partnership, of a project that first came to service in late last year with the first roundtable. As I was mentioning, this is an endeavor jointly held by Macau Business Magazine, Great Bay Express, a magazine, a quarterly publication that you may find here at your seats and also online, and this is a publication that is led by the Asia Pacific Communication Exchange Association. The president of the association, Professor Wu Mei, is here with us. So I'd like to greet her and and thank her for bringing us together and encouraging us to explore this exchange. I'd like to welcome you all here, namely our friends from the Office of the Commissioner of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China in the Macau SAR, namely Ms. Su Yi and Mr. Lin Huangbi. And also, I'd like to extend warm greetings to representatives from Chambers of Commerce. We have here, before I will be introducing the panel, I will also like to greet Fabien Blake. He is the Vice President of the European Chamber of Commerce in China and the Chair of the South China Board. Yes, am I getting it right? Yes, right. Thank you. And representatives from BRITCHAM, from France, Macau Chamber of Commerce, from the International Lusophone Markets Association, and other friends and experts who are here with us, joining us for this meaningful round table. So, without further ado, let me introduce this panel. We have with us a diverse panel with a diverse background, connecting Macau, Greater Bay Area, Europe. Rui Pedro Cunha joins us. Thank you so much, Rui Pedro. He's the president of the Macau European Chamber of Commerce. We have with us Klaus Zenkel, vice president of the Swiss Chamber of Commerce, South China, and also member of the South China Board of the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China. He's based in Shenzhen. And we mean it when we talk about bringing GBA or Guangdong to Macau, from Shenzhen to Guangzhou. We have Professor Li Xiaoying. She's a Vice Dean of the Institute for Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Development Studies, and Professor of Economics at Sun Yat-sen University in Guangzhou. Thank you. We have Jorge Costa Oliveira joining us from Lisbon. He is a Macau SAR resident. He served here in the Macau SAR government for several years. He is a consultant and is a former vice minister for the internationalization of the Portuguese economy. Thank you, George. Thank you. And last not the least, young talent, Marco Y, Chief Representative of Hong Kong and Greater Bay Area at 8 Hours Ahead, member of the Macau Youth Summit Policy Research Group, and also someone with roots in Macau and Guangzhou, and also who studied abroad, studied in Hong Kong and also in the UK. So also his profile fits pretty much this new generation of multicultural and also innovative generation here in Macau. And joining me as a co-chair of this series is José Luis Salles Marques. We all know him, senior economist, columnist of both Macau Business Magazine and Great Bay Express, former president of the Institute of European Studies of Macau, former mayor of Macau, and a very, very good friend. José Luis, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, José. Thank you very much for all of you of being here today. So I'm going to fire the first shot. And the first one is going to Rui, Pedro Cunha, because I know that you've been in Brussels very recently, and you had a meeting with the officials as well as the chambers of commerce. So what the take that you have from those meetings? What is the feeling there in regard to, for instance, business with China and investment and so on?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, I just came back from Brussels a week and a half ago. Every year there's a meeting in Brussels, a full week of meetings with all the European chambers from all around the world to get together there. And we have the opportunity not only to talk to each other, but also to meet with heads of cabinet of several of the commissioners. It was an interesting, as I expected, it was an interesting visit, more than in previous years, because the world changed since January, and the posture in Brussels also changed a little bit. I guess it's going to change more in the future, but this year I heard about simplifying legislation, simplifying the regulations that have been that Brussels has been producing a lot for many years, and I heard a lot about pragmatism, which is a word that I also didn't used to hear very much when I went to Brussels. So I think these are good signs. Of course, I expected more, but I'll be waiting for the next chapters in the coming months.
Well, thank you, Rui. Well, now, may I ask George, because you have a view from, such a transnational and transcontinental view, as well as life experience. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. So what do you think about the current, I would call it, the geoeconomic and geopolitical setting of that we are having, and how much would that actually somehow influence the relationship between China, Macau, and the European Union? Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure, and it's always a pleasure to attend events of this kind and to cooperate with our business, and in this case, the Rui Cunha Foundation. Now, there are certain things that are more or less obvious, so there's no need to go into a lot of detail. I mean, it's pretty clear that we live at an era where instability and uncertainty arising from the commercial war launched by Donald Trump is not going to be away anytime soon. It is a commercial war that has many implications and extensive. A lot of people have spoken about that, so we can go into one or two areas, but there's really no point into furthering this more on this side. The important thing from the European perspective, in my opinion, is the fact that since 2022, since the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, a key component of the European strategy got fragmented, and this affects the relation with China in a very significant manner. And that component or that piece is the concept of economic interdependency as a key factor for world peace and economic stability and economic growth. People usually, especially economists, usually only speak about globalization, but globalization to an extent is one of the corollaries of this economic interdependence. After what happened with Russia, Europe today became very mistrustful of all the other big powers, especially those the economic blocs that it is dependent from. So the mistrust with China existed. It still exists. It's pretty obvious. It was voiced in a smoother fashion. The head of the European Commission did not speak and does not speak about decoupling. It speaks about de-risking, but the speech is still there. And the fear that tomorrow Europe will face a significant blow in economic terms, similar to what happened in the energy sector and others from the dependence on Russia, is present and is not going to go away. It's true that Europe didn't do a lot to help to diffuse that and to create a relation of trust from the moment the European Parliament vetoed the implementation of the European Union-China investment agreement, so a comprehensive investment agreement. And that also, and furthermore, in the years that followed, even in areas where Chinese companies wanted to invest, I mean, if you take the areas of the green economy, so electric batteries, electric cars, photovoltaic material, and a couple more, in all the other areas that Europe or European countries deemed strategic, a lot of, especially M&A deals, were vetoed. Even greenfield investments that would bring capital and create jobs, they were vetoed. So this is something that is not going to go away anytime soon. And the mistrust that arises from the concept of de-risking and the fears inherent to the situation of great dependence in terms of foreign trade from China. I mean, in many areas, the most relevant of which are the critical metals, of which the rare earths have been the latest case, but also in terms of the APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients. Probably, I don't know the numbers by heart, but I would guess that around 60% probably come from China. So in other key areas that are very, very important for the supply of key industries for the European economy, the situation, the dependence is huge. Now, it is the paramount task, I think, in the coming times, especially arising from taking into consideration the great problem that we have from the other side of the Atlantic, which is a very uncertain president of the United States, to put it mildly, is to try to repair the relationship between China and the European Union. And this is going to take time. And it is one of the most important tasks, I think, for this generation, because it's going to take many years to take place. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, George. And I took a couple of sentences that you said, and I'm going to work out on that a little bit more. And I will ask Klaus here, which is, you're on the field, South China, Greater Bay Area, always know for its openness to foreign trade and investment, and also for developing very win-win relations with the EU. So what is your talk on how vulnerable is GBA at this moment in time in regard to foreign trade and investment, and also what kind of opportunities you see in these challenging times that we have in regard to GBA? And if you want to approach that, I would give that, let's say, possibility to you. Otherwise, we can talk on the next round. But do you think the time has come for the comprehensive agreement on investment to be, let's say, reconsider at least? Reconsider. I'm not saying any more than that. Reconsider. Yes, please.
Okay, let me just thank you for the invitation first and start with the last question about the CAI, CAI. I think this has left the table. It's not on the table anymore because times have changed. And if you want to adjust everything like before, then it takes a lot of effort to bring this back. So even it was not implemented, many things have changed. Many things have been done in the past. So the trade, of course, the trade between the trade balance, let's say China and Europe, is still one-sided on the China side. China sends 4 containers to Europe and 1 container comes back. So this is the situation. The GBA, yes, GBA is of course, as you mentioned, a good place, very nice, very good business environment. Infrastructure is there, and many companies have reliable supply chains. But the challenge is that the economy is not growing, and this is I think 70% of our members just feedback in our recent business confidence survey that this is their biggest challenge they're facing, the not growing economy. And so this is number one. Number two is globally also the economy is not going north. And then number three is the relationship with United States. And I wouldn't call it China, I would call it the world. So because this has changed. So it's in the Greater Bay Area is very biggest, one of the biggest Greater Bay Areas in the world. If you compare with other Bay Areas, the land area, the population, and the GDP also, but the GDP per capita is not on the same level. So that is where many companies see the potential. We also see that multinational companies are reinvesting here in South China. So we have seen this in the aviation. I recently visited one company just across the border here in Zhuhai, and another one, they just had the groundbreaking ceremony in January in Shenzhen, one company in the healthcare. So they are tripling their size. They are already large and they are tripling their size. So they have the confidence in China and especially the Greater Bay Area. The other aspect is the small and medium companies, the SMEs. They are hesitating what to do. They don't invest or enlarge their businesses here. So they are waiting what's happening with the economy. So once the economy is growing, so I think they will also be reinvesting here. At the moment, they will stay here because for a small company to move somewhere else, it is very difficult. So opportunities, we know, is Greater Bay Area is known for high innovation output, and there's high-tech manufacturing. All the high-tech products are developed here in the South China. So I think it's good opportunities, and the Europeans together with the Chinese can develop this well for the sustainable future.
Well, thank you very much. I give back the floor to you, José.
Thank you, José. Thank you, Klaus. Thank you all. Professor Li Xiaoying, Despite the noise and all the geopolitical tensions, and even notwithstanding trade barriers, the fact of the matter is that the latest figures, for instance, with regards to trade between Guangdong and the European Union, the first 4 months of 2025, 7.7 year-on-year % growth. So can you comment on this? And also perhaps you may want to add something on top of what the other speakers have mentioned. Thank you.
Just a few bit. Yes. Thank you for inviting me. It's my great honor to be here and to meet all the friends. I have been doing some research about the Greater Bay Area. In China, if you want to really know something about China, you should look at China by area. So Greater Bay Area is a place quite different from the Yangtze River Delta area, also different from the Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei. It's one of the most rich place in China, and its GDP can compare to South Korea, and also its innovation is quite important at this moment. Yeah. So under the background of this geopolitical tensions, we have surveyed some of the firms, and of course, yeah, the GBA is always at the forefront of the all these international collections. So when the trade war between China and the US happens, many of the firms feel this challenge and the difficulties quite immediately. But we are still quite optimistic. Yeah, after when we follow up these entrepreneurs and also some managers in the firms, we can see that the GBA is a place where firms can shift their strategy according to what's happening outside. So even though there are a lot of difficulties, but we can see that they are trying to take these difficulties as a chance, as opportunities to also transit their strategy. For example, we know in the past many of the firms and the factories are doing some low-skilled manufacturing, but now with all the changes outside, they are trying to upscale their production, upscale their products, and also their brands. They will not only invest more in the R&D, but also will invest in other countries all over the world. So we can see that these difficulties, challenges from outside give a lot of pressure to the entrepreneurs, but many of them do shift under this pressure. So we can see that there are some optimism even among the entrepreneurs. Yeah, that's what we have been seeing. So this place is, if we look at macro level, we can see there are some comparative advantages for the GBA. First is that it has the most complete industrial and innovative ecosystem, yeah, in China, and sometimes we can say it's comparable even to the best in the world. So this helps the firms to shift their strategy. Yeah, if they want to upscale their brand, upscale their production, they can do it quite fast and sometimes with low cost. So this complete industrial and innovative system helps them a lot. The second is that it's the most open place and most collective place to the world. So we see that we have all the international airports and also the ports which collects both the domestic huge markets in China and the outside markets, the foreign markets together. So this makes the GBA quite attractive. But of course, we also meet a lot of challenges here. Yeah, but I think most of the people here are quite optimistic at this moment. Yeah.
Or resilience
Yeah.
in face of all these tensions and challenges.
Yeah,
Thank you, Professor. Marco, you are very active in the in forging and contributing to an innovation-prone ecosystem, and also in the startup scene. And on top of that, in venture capital flows and attracting investment and cross investments in these more innovative areas of the economy. Considering the overall global geopolitical picture in tensions, has it changed your task and your mission? To what extent has it impacted, and how do you see this conversation?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First of all, as someone who is born and raised in Macau, it's my pleasure to be here, to return back to my favorite hometown, to speak here on this important topic. But just a brief introduction. So I'm currently working for 8 hours ahead. The reason why we are called 8 hours ahead is because China is 8 hours ahead than the UK and Europe. So what we do is we partner up with European startups, and then we enter to China together, co-found Chinese companies together. Right now, we already have 21 portfolio companies from Europe, which are well structured in China with our capital holding company in Hong Kong. So I think, regarding the geopolitical tensions that we have just heard, is a lot of maybe negative sentiment. But for myself, I can't be more optimistic than ever, because right now, I think it's not a choice for European companies to think about coming to China, but it's a must. And the reason is because if we just look into the population size in China, it's much larger than the entire European Union. And then the second thing is we are looking at a lot of biotech companies. For example, right now I have 3 portfolio companies that are doing cancer drug therapy, and they need a lot of patient data. And if we look at China, it represents at least 60% of the cancer patient market in the world, unfortunately. But if we have to do clinical trial patient data, China is the place. And if we look into Greater Bay Area, is of course an important test bed for all these European biotech companies. Why? Because in Hong Kong and in Macau, basically if you do the clinical trial and everything, it's the same international standard with Europe, with US FDA, etc. And right now we even have the GBA Medical Connect scheme. So for example, in Macau, if you already have your medical device, if you already have your drug recognized in EU or anywhere of the world, basically you just do a very simple filing in Macau and then you can get registered here. And then in Hong Kong, it's the same. If you get recognized in 2 foreign countries, you can do a simple filing in Hong Kong, you can register in Hong Kong. And then with the GBA Medical Connect scheme, you can basically register in Hong Kong and Macau and then enter to 23 hospitals in GBA, including Guangzhou. So it's much easier than going directly to China and then doing the NMPA approval, et cetera, and et cetera. So I think it's a huge opportunity, in terms of the GBA regulatory landscape. And I think actions speak louder than words. Of course, I'm saying is a lot of opportunity here, but it's not useful if I'm just saying it in a theoretical perspective. But just 3 weeks ago, my company and myself, we organized a European roadshow across 5 different cities in China, and we brought 6 of our portfolio companies to be here for 6 days. And then the feedback that I got from the European founders are that firstly, they have heard a lot of negative sentiment in the European news outlet, but it's the first time that they come to China, and they are very amazed how digitalized our country is. Second thing, they are very amazed with how fast things goes. For example, for the past 6 years, I've been working in investment banking in the UK. When I have to get a project approved, maybe I have to wait for 1 month. If July and August, maybe I have to wait for 3 months because I may be spending a summer holiday in Spain. But in China and in Macau and in Hong Kong, it just takes you 5 hours, and then you get email turnaround and everything moves extremely fast. And then the third thing is, of course, the market opportunity. We have the largest, market here all the consumers here. It's just so easy to do pilot testing here. So all in all, I'm very optimistic about the GBA area. Yeah.
Thank you, Marco. So, Rui, seeing is believing. This brings me to the topic and the issue of reality and perceptions. It's fair to say that over the past decade, and I shall say even more over the past 5 years or 6 years, perceptions of China in Europe have deteriorated in terms of what was reported, and I would also like Klaus to comment on this, confirm. And when you go there, you've seen this taking shape. But how about this time? Now that we have this geopolitical juncture, shortly after Donald Trump launched the aggressive trade war salvos, there was analysts and commentators and even officials suggesting that time has come, time is right for a rapprochement and for bringing the EU-China partnership back on track where we left it perhaps a few years ago. How do you see that based on your perspective, what you've experienced, what people told you, and what you took note of these encounters, both over there and also, of course, here in Macau, in the Greater Bay Area?
Well, from an European living in Macau, whenever I go back to Europe, I feel a bit shocked because the perspective from most Europeans is not positive about China, and I think that has a lot to do with the media coverage that is done in Europe. If you look at it from a perspective of someone living in Europe, I think this is because they don't have access to China. They only see China through the lens of the media, and the media has not been kind to China. Regarding, you asked about the perspective of doing business from Europe. This geopolitical change, I was expecting to see more change in Brussels than I saw. I agree with Dr. Jorge Oliveira. This is going to take a few years. It's not something that can happen overnight. The shock was big. I think we should thank the United States because the shock was really big, and I think it helps Europe to wake up and see that the world is not centered in Europe anymore. There's a lot more to see to the world. There are a lot more opportunities than what Europe is able to see from the old continent. So I think we should thank the United States for that. But I think it's still going to take a while. I was expecting this trip that I did to Europe a couple of weeks ago, I was expecting more change. Some things have clearly changed. There is now a sense of urgency that did not exist before, but I don't see it as an immediate solution to global trade and to the relationship with China. I agree with Jorge Oliveira. I think it's going to take a while. But for a change to happen, we need goodwill from both sides. We need people. I think people-to-people connections are very important. I had the opportunity to speak with many people there in Brussels, because one full week of meetings is a lot of meetings, and we get to meet a lot of people. And I think that's the way we need to go. We need to have more meetings, more person-to-person contacts. Change the media idea that China is dangerous. I mean, we are living in China. We know what it's like. If we didn't like it here, we would not be living here. And I think that people who live here in China, Europeans who live in Macau and Hong Kong and China, see this economical growth of China, not as something scary, but as something that we can be proud of. So I think we need to pass this message to our family members and our friends living in Europe, that China is not something to fear. China is a big opportunity for European companies.
And now with the visa-free arrangements, you know, more people have the opportunity, or it will be easier to get to know and to see by themselves. Thank you, Rui. Jorge, this leads me to the upcoming EU-China summit scheduled for July. There was some expectations, perhaps the latest statements by Ursula von der Leyen in the G7 summit have watered down a bit of the mood among those who are looking for some more warmth approach by Brussels on what's coming next month. However, having said this, do you see or foresee this perspective and expectation that the Trump 2.0 administration would be kind of blessing in disguise, so to say, for bringing EU-China relations back on track in many ways? Or there are so many factors and the picture is way more complex? What's your take on this and on the expectations for the upcoming summit?
Well, things are not going to be easy, and they start by not being easy to the head of the European Commission and the European Commission and all the European politicians and decision makers. I think that some of the statements that Ursula von der Leyen, and we'll see other members of the European Commission doing similar statements, are doing, for instance, as regards rare earths, but in reality, all other critical metals whose chain of value is overwhelmingly controlled by Chinese companies in several areas by Chinese state-owned enterprises. This is making the automobile industry in Europe, and especially in Germany, very, very nervous. Ursula von der Leyen is German, let's not forget that, and I'm pretty sure that she's also voicing a lot of concerns arising from this shortage of critical metals, and the fact that the supply of critical metals is being used as a tool in international conflicts that arise. I don't think that at this stage that China wants to open a front with Europe, but the fact is that everything is open in terms of negotiations. So one tool that is used in the trade war with the United States inevitably is going to be used also with Europe. But let's not forget the overall picture. I mean, it is true what Rui Cunha said. I mean, a lot of it's sometimes even difficult to understand when we look back 10 years, how such a positive, the polls in terms of the image of China with the European citizens was very good. And there has been a significant erosion in the last 10 years. And yes, a significant part of that has to come from the media, including the information vehicled on social networks. And probably this is the case because a significant part of the world range media is actually in the hands of American vested interests. And America has a problem, and American politicians and American top companies have a problem with global leadership. And I would dare say that with Europe, I don't think that we live at the times where the European leaders I mean, even those that are old school, I don't think that most of them are Eurocentric. And they are pretty aware that the European Union represents today perhaps 15% of the overall GDP. And in 2040, probably it will represent 10%. They are very well aware of that. And on the other hand, they don't have I mean, Europe does not have a problem with the rise of China in the same manner that the United States has. And you will never see, I have never seen, and I write extensively about this, I've never seen articles of politicians or statements by politicians or by leading economists in Europe expressing concern that the rise of the yuan or the renminbi and the internationalization of the renminbi might pose a risk to the role of the euro. It's not the case. I mean, we don't have today we are probably, Europe, the European Union is still the largest economic bloc in the world, but it is not, it does not feel threatened because it doesn't look at the others that are rising. Today is China, but tomorrow it will be India and Indonesia and Brazil in a multipolar world, which we acknowledged a long time ago that was starting and now is taking shape. China is the most visible face. Also, and this is one of the things. I don't think that there's a problem similar to what we see in the US of having a European government or significant governments concerned with the rise of China in terms of global hegemony. I don't think that that problem exists. There's a problem. There are problems in very specific areas. If suddenly the Chinese electric vehicles are very good value for money, obviously there's a problem for the European industry that delayed and there will be setbacks there. And I think people understand that. I mean, of course, it is necessary to manage that politically, but I don't think that the overall problem arising from the need to be the hegemonistic superpower, that does not exist in Europe. And that is one of the good things. The other good thing is, also Eugenio mentioned this, is the fact that in Europe, after the Draghi report, it became, I mean, it was already there. Like all the crucial reports that are done, nobody ever builds in the void. So the Draghi report puts it black and white that Europe needs to move fast and to take measures fast to become more competitive and more innovative in a number of areas. So this is a key issue that needs to be, that is now being addressed. The problem being that Europe is a big animal. We don't have exactly a federal government. And the bureaucracy in Brussels, yes, in theory, they agree, but let's not forget that the guys that make thousands of regulations a year, it's not. So this is going to take a lot of political will and commitment to change. And that, I don't think it's going to happen very, very quickly. Last but not the least, I mean, let's not always put the burden also on the other side. China has evolved fantastically. And I think I'm it is to say this because it's, I think I still enjoy Lao Panyo status in China, but it is important to say this. A lot of the bad image and the reason for for China being less popular and with a view in a less benign way with European unions lies in the media and in a lot of people that with the rise of the extreme right movements and those that perceive that live out of creating fear and anguish in people. But also it lies in the fact that China is not exactly the best country in the world in terms of projecting a positive image of itself to the outside. There's a lot to be done in that regard. I mean, and the fact that probably the people that do this come from the propaganda departments, that should change. It is the people that take care of the image of China abroad, with all due respect, they're not doing a great job as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, George. Now, of course, what we heard up to now, it takes us to the, at least, let's say, two conclusions, or partial conclusions. On the one hand, the relationship needs to be manned. It will take time. And Rui Pedro mentioned, and very well, the need for deepening the people-to-people relation. But on the other hand, also, I think some kind of confidence building measures are necessary. And on the trade and investment side, for instance, I see that China has some more of this liberal move to liberalize more sectors, to be open for foreign investment, for instance. And my question is, in regard to trade, of course, when we talk about, this unbalanced trade, we are mentioning mostly trade in goods. But trade in services has actually been quite good for the European side. So is there any chance, or do we see from the Chinese side some effort in opening up more the service sector for the European investors, and after all, to improve in the third, what is always been one of the main points that European business have mentioned in their reports and your reports on China, which is the to level the playing field. So my question here is very much on the service sector, if you see any improvement on that.
Yeah, thanks for this question. The service sector, yeah, we can, of course, when we look at the Greater Bay Area, is mainly coming from Hong Kong and Macau. These two cities are also part of the Greater Bay Area. And there is also free trade zones built up in the Greater Bay Area. For example, Hangzhou here in Zhuhai, and then also Qianhai in Shenzhen, and Nansha in Guangzhou. So those are also focusing on the service industry. And the service industry, surely it's something which is not fully accessible. We have also in the business confidence survey feedback that many companies lost revenue because of the non-accessible market, non-accessible industries, and one of which is the service. So financial service and also insurance and yeah, many others. What we can see now that in the healthcare, which is positive, that now hospitals can be established as wholly foreign-owned enterprises in China. So this is one step ahead, and companies surely hope that especially the insurance sector and the fintech industry will be more accessible in the future.
Well, thank you, Klaus. So my question now is for Professor Lee. So can we expect further openings in the service sector to attract foreign investment? Of course, particularly as we are talking about Europe from the EU. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree in that the opening up of the service sector will be the trend for future policy. Yeah, as we can see that in this year there is a change of the policy. We have many pilot cities which will open its service industry to the foreign investment. So in the service sector, we can divide them into two camps. The first is the producer service. The second is the consumer service. For the producer service, I think China will most likely welcome or most of the producer service from UK, Europe to come to invest, because it will help the manufacturing in China, the technology innovation in China. So I think that's a trend. For the consumer service, with the consumers in China, the demand for this consumption rises quite fast, and if the supply within China cannot meet all the demand, I think there is also great chance for them to open up. So we can see that in the Greater Bay Area, as the expert mentioned, in some special zones like Qianhai, Hengqin, Nansha, it already began to try this. But why it looks a bit slowly? Because it's not as easy as the manufacturing to open up. In each area for the service, if you want to open up to the foreign investment, you need to change many policies, regulations. So I think it's towards that direction, but it will move not as fast as we expect. Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, thank you very much. So, Marcus, you are young and a lot of
Moving fast.
and moving fast and moving fast. Eight hours
hours,
ahead.
yes.
8 hours ahead. So,
Only Marco.
you know, in your view, because this is what you do, right? When you bring in investors from Europe and so on, so what kind of challenge you still face, you know, particularly in the Greater Bay Area? Do you would like, in a, let's say, I wouldn't say in a short term, but maybe in a few years, to actually be somehow improve or change or something?
Sure. Thank you, thank you. So before I joined 8 hours ahead, actually I spent 6 years in both JP Morgan and HSBC, in both the London and Hong Kong offices, and I work in the investment banking division. So at that time, actually 4 years ago, is the first time when China opened up its equities and bond index market to the world. And at that time, as the Chinese face in London, obviously I'm tasked to run these projects. And actually, at the time, I faced several challenges. So firstly, is that right now, obviously, in terms of even the legislation in Europe or US, mostly is common law jurisdiction. But when we look into China and Macau, it's civil law jurisdiction. There is different constitution in terms of investor right, shareholder right, et cetera, et cetera. And then the second thing is definitely the differences in the international settlement standard, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, other than that, I think right now one of the challenges that we face is that most of the investors in GBA and in China, yes, they look for fast return, quick return. They want return within 3 to 4 years. But if we look into innovation, we want to support a drug discovery. We want to support, you know, a unicorn, you know, shining up in the global stage. It's not going to take 3 to 4 years. It takes 10 years at least. So that's why right now we have seen, I think 2 months ago, you know, from the central government, right now we are trying to do patient capital. You know, we want something longer, you know, 10-year investment time frame, you know, or something longer. And then the second thing is more support to, you know, startup founders. And I think Macau government have done a very great job. So one of the reasons why I fly back from Shanghai to Macau yesterday is actually to attend the Brazil and Portugal tech innovation competition organized by the Macau government. And I'm very fortunate, one of my startup that I've brought to Macau has won the champion award yesterday. And I think Macau government, thank you. And I think Macau government has done a great job because, you know, usually when investors give support to the startups, they ask for equities in return, or they ask for some commitment in return. But for Macau, this competition is basically non-dilutive. There is no commitment. You know, open up with welcome arms. You know, and then obviously right now, you know, as we have seen in the news, Macau government is trying to build our own tech park, our own VC fund, etc. So things are, you know, coming back. But to answer the question in short, I think what we want the government or want, you know, people to do things for the young community or the startup community is firstly to foster the Sino-European, you know, collaboration. Maybe we need more funding schemes specifically targeted for Sino-European collaboration. And then for the second thing is more patient capital injecting from the government, you know, to support innovation. And then for third thing is obviously we need an ecosystem here, more investors, more, you know, founders, startups from Europe coming to China to set the example, to set themselves as a role model so that we can attract, you know, more and more, you know, innovative community people from Europe coming all the way to GBA. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marco. And now I would like to ask the audience, the floor is yours, to jump in, to share some remarks and throw some questions to the panel. Please don't be shy. Anyone would like to go first? Would there be any, can be a question or a remark? Please, Chris.
I guess my question would be for the professor out in Lisbon. You mentioned the narrative per se that Europe, the community as a whole is very welcoming to kind of these Chinese investments. but is very politically difficult in some sectors. And you mentioned automotives. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts of how you would speak or propose a narrative to the automobile industry in, say, Germany, who is maybe not as competitive as the EVs are being priced lower and lower in China and being exported to Europe, even though the companies are building factories over there, because it is a sensitive issue, and it seems to be those cases which are then amplified, which direct the narrative and then the kind of the reputation of being unwelcoming to the European community. Thank you.
George. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. I don't think, well, obviously, I think not only the automobile industry in Europe is aware of the inevitability of electric vehicles from China coming in and hybrids coming in and occupying a sizable portion of the market. It's also aware that it is necessary to live with that and to be ready to lose a share of the market. I don't think that is a big problem for the large companies. Obviously, there will be repercussions, but it started. It is going to increase. It's not bigger. The expression of the entry of Chinese vehicles or EVs in the market is not bigger because in many of the cases the brand recognition is still not powerful, or the maintenance agreements. There are these details and the fact that the main network for charging the electric vehicles has been set up by German cars, and they, surprise, they do not include a plug for Chinese vehicles or for Teslas. So but overall, there's no doubt that I think they acknowledge that this is going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. And this is the reason why you see that it was the German auto industry that demanded the European Union not to target significantly or to difficult too much the entrance of Chinese electric vehicles in the European market, because China would retaliate, and the Chinese market is still a relevant market for them, especially for including traditional or motor engine vehicles. Now, this said, there are other considerations here that need to be taken in consideration. I mean, this is not the problem the problem is not the problem for the European companies, especially for the German auto industry. Main problem is not that. The problem are the deadlines that exist in Europe for the decarbonization, the famous net zero 2050. Now, according to these to the time frame that has been set up and which is enshrined in European regulations, that is in law, which is not easy to change, the average emissions issued by each company has to reduce significantly, had to be reduced significantly already this year. So if no measures have been taken, and the European Commission has delayed the issue, but has not changed the law, these companies would be subject to huge fines. So with all due respect, they know that they need to be more competitive. They need to be ready to accept that they're going to lose, and I think they accept that they're going to lose parts of the market share. They need to integrate vertically their companies, because they are following also what's happening in China. The war of prices that is happening in China shows that companies like BYD, which are vertically integrated, are going to cannibalize a sizable portion of the market. So they realize that, so they also want to do that, and that's why they also are doing gigafactories of their own or in partnership. So to do that, they need time, and they need not to be asphyxiated by the stringent deadlines of net zero 2050. I've been writing extensively about that and about the unrealistic deadlines, not only in this area but in others. And in my opinion, this will take place. But of course, this is one area that is, again, it's a bit technical. So not, but you can see some things in the Financial Times, in the Wall Street journals, and other publications. There is information about this, and just to say that the problems that afflict the European industry, auto industry, are bigger than just the competition from the Chinese sector, which is a big issue, yes.
And George, one of these articles that you have been authoring was published a couple of months ago on Macau Business Magazine, the chimera of net zero on electric vehicles. So I would suggest also invite our friends to take a look at that and go through also the charts and the research that you shared with us. Thank you, George. More questions? We're talking about Europe, China, and Europe GBA, not specifically only European Union. This is to bring into the conversation our British friends. So, because it is a great conversation about how Britain-China relations may evolve in the future. But for Nuno, please go ahead, Nuno Mata.
Thank you. My question is a little provocative and is in first line to George. Olá, Jorge, tudo bem? It is, you talk about some mistrust that is somehow slowing down the relations between Europe, if I understand well, and China. What I just would like to ask you is that is only mistrust or is also some kind of what I call the breakup syndrome? Because Europe is still affected by the breakup of US with Europe, and they are still hoping that US come back. And so they don't want to do anything that could avoid that comeback. The second question is, what in your opinion explains that in Europe that was so hard on their position at the time of Brexit is so slow reacting to this economic war from the US that affected also Europe, and somehow is, in my opinion, slowing down in promoting a globalized world without US. So this is more.
Can be for. This
for
is
any,
for
any,
anyone, George, or
anyone
anyone, maybe also
of
wants
course,
to jump in.
First line was
with George,
this
but
part,
of course, thank you, Nuno.
Any member of the panel want to?
Who wants to jump in? George, you may want to have a first quick shot, and then the others would follow on this matter.
Yeah, very, very briefly. I think just to comment on the reaction to the trade war, the terrorist trade war started by Donald Trump. I think the reaction of Europe is slow, like almost anyone else, is slow because the way that he acts, it doesn't make it easy to. I mean, it doesn't pay off to be very stringent and very imperative in the reply that you make. I think that Europe is being smart. The smart way to deal with an egotistic person like Trump is to have a cautious approach and focus on negotiation itself. We're talking about someone that definitely does not believe in free trade, someone that is not exactly an economic eagle, and therefore it is very difficult to speak with him in economic terms. But more important than that, the smart people around him, and not talking about Secretary for Commerce, which I think likes to see himself as a yes man. I'm talking about the chair of the Economic Commission, of Stefan Miran. The speech of Stefan Miran, in which it becomes clear that the strategy is to put pressure on other economic blocs to force them to pay tribute in order to guarantee the military empire and also to pay for the usage of the US dollar as an international currency, as if that was primarily a benefit of the rest of the world. That is what is scaring. And the fact that it is necessary to react and to create a strategy is difficult. It's difficult for Europe and it's difficult for anyone else. But in the case of Europe, it's very relevant because the economic relations, the trade is very significant. It's very significant both ways. I think he's aware of Trump is aware of that, and also, delaying pays off because all the countries have realized most likely in 1 year, 1 year and a half, if that much, after the midterms, the political reality will change, and all these initiatives, let's call it like this, by Trump, will be curtailed, and the emergency powers will be curtailed by the Congress with a new majority. But in the meantime, it is necessary to be very cautious with the way in which you negotiate with him, and to use many actors, and as it has been the case. I mean, the use of the Prime Minister of Italy is a good example. It's someone for him that Trump likes to speak with, someone that obviously goes ahead to soften the way. But at the end of the day, the negotiations will be handled by the European Commission, and the European Commission is not known for speaking softly and carrying a small stick.
Thank you, George. And sticks and carrots in face of a rather erratic person in charge in Washington. Anyone who wants to comment on this or something else on the conversation?
Yeah.
Klaus?
I think that, as he said, it's very difficult to react fast on this kind of tariff up and down. So today something, tomorrow something new. So I think this tariff is everybody will shoot themselves in the foot. So that's what we also see when the Commissioner for Trade, Mr. Šefčovič, he visited Beijing in I think in end of March. And then that time we had a lunch meeting with him, and he was telling, oh, I just come directly from Washington, and we are sitting on a table, and they didn't tell anything about a tariff. And when I woke up after the flight, when the flight was ended, I hear, oh, there's already 25% tariff. So from within 8 hours. So surely they know it, but they didn't tell. Yeah. So this kind of things, and also these things like sanctions, we also have between Europe and China. So there, for example, healthcare, there was this IPI, this investigation on some public procurement in China, that there's discrimination against European or foreign companies. So this was evidence, and it was already filed in the EU, in the Commission, beginning of this year, and then but there was no measures. But just I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, the EU announced sanction on this, that Chinese medical device supplier cannot participate in public vendors in Europe, which are higher than 5 million euro. So we are from the chambers, European chamber, and I'm also with the Swiss chamber. So we are always thinking that dialogue to solve the problem is much better than put sanction here, another put a sanction there. So it will not help anybody. It will only affect the consumer. Yeah? The consumer will pay the bill at the end. So we hope that the upcoming China-EU summit will have some positive effect on this. You mentioned before it will take a long time. There will be small steps, but small steps in the right direction are very important.
believe things can only get better even though may not be overnight, right?
Not overnight, but you need to have the dialogue. You need to have the continuous dialogue. You need to understand each other. And I was attending, I don't know if it is still existing, a conference called Understanding China.
Oh, yes.
And this is a very good topic, yeah, to bring all stakeholders together to understand each other.
Exactly. Thank you, Klaus.
Very good, very
Good.
good. Indeed.
Uh,
one more
Saj,
question.
yes.
Hi, Jose. Thank you for opening the floor up to the
Of
British
course,
contingent.
of course.
Attending a European event. I thought Brexit meant Brexit,
Yes,
but that's very. So a lot of the discussion today has been about financial investment into the GBA, and I had a question actually about intellectual investment. So it's more a question for Professor Xiaoying. You see a lot of, or in the fields that I'm in, a lot of when children get to secondary school, there's an exodus to universities globally in places like America, Australia, England being one of them. Where do you see the growth of tertiary education, university education in the GBA, and the idea of local children moving to universities and remaining within China, but also further encouraging international students from other countries to come in and study in China? Where do you see the growth of that being part of the process of the GBA?
Yes. Thank you for your question. Yes, I think this also connects to the service open up to the world. Yes, I think one of the direction for the open up is open up the education to the foreign students. According to my information, besides Hong Kong and Macau are trying to do all these things, even the universities in the mainland, they are trying to do this. For example, the Sun Yat-sen University has also opened up a graduate school in Hong Kong. I think this is a first step. Maybe in the future, there will be like a campus to have more international students. So the Greater Bay Area, I think, will be the center for the education reform, which will open up to the world. Because as an innovation center, we need all the talents. We need the talents all over the world to work here, to live here. So I think that's the trend for future. Yeah.
Yes, let me ask Rui Pedro, because you are very familiar with Hengqin, and one of the big projects that were announced by the government here is a new campus, I suppose international campus at Hengqin, involving Macau universities and also universities from other places, including from Portugal. So what do you think about that, and what are the prospects of that project being a very successful one and contributing to this?
I don't have any insider information on what's happening in Hengqin. What I know from specifically the new campus being built, I've been reading from the newspapers, but I do keep an eye on what's going on in Hengqin, and I think that that is part of a way of changing the perception about China. If more European companies are able to come and establish themselves in Hengqin, if more European students are able to come and get to know China like we know China, I think that will make it much easier to change the perception from outside of China, specifically from Europe. The new campus is also an opportunity to expand drastically the universities in Macau, because the new campus, I believe that the University of Macau currently has something like 15,000 students, and is going to grow up to 22,000, at least those are the numbers that I remember, using this new campus. And other universities will be doing the same. The University of Macau is going to create a university medicine course medical school, which did not exist in the University of Macau. There was in the Macau University of Science and Technology, but not in the University of Macau. There will be also some new engineering degrees. So I think that universities are going to grow quite a lot thanks to that campus. We should also look back and see the growth that those universities had in the past 20 years, because the growth has been very, very strong. Right now we have in Macau excellent universities that are ranked very well in worldwide rankings, and this did not exist 20 years ago. And this is an example of what the government has been doing right to expand the quality of higher education. Also, most of those students are coming from mainland China. And from what I've heard, they come to mainland China, from mainland China to Macau, because it's a halfway step. It's not as scary as going abroad, but it allows them to have an exposure to a different way of thinking, an exposure to the outside world of China, that allows those students to have to see the bigger picture. And I believe that's why, in part, those universities have been so successful, is because the quality of the students coming from mainland China is very high.
Thank you, Rui. And Marco, I believe you'd like to add something to this, because having a cluster and a hub for higher education obviously is linked with R&D, R&D spin-offs, innovation, startups, and so on, right?
Yeah, sure, of course. And I think like it's very, when we are talking about attracting expats to come to China, to GBA, education is very important. And I think I'm a good example because my parents are actually expats, and then they came to University of Macau and did their computer science degree and engineering degree. They know each other, and then so they get married in Macau, and that's why I'm born and raised in Macau. And I'm the, basically the byproduct of two expats living in Macau. And I did my UK GCA level and IGCSE education in Macau, actually. So, obviously right now when we are, trying to build, for example, the tech park or Macau, or when I'm talking with other tech parks in China, when they're talking about the ecosystem, one of the most important thing is about building the international school for the kids. But then I think another thing, since we are talking about education, one of the most important things that we are facing in China and in GBA is actually the brain drain issue. A lot of people, they go overseas, studied, and then they never come back. Like for myself, as an example, after I graduated from Macau with my UK GCA level and IGCSE, I went to the Chinese University of Hong Kong for my bachelor degree under the Macau government scholarship. But actually, I stayed in JP Morgan and HSBC. I didn't come back to Macau because at that time there is not, a job market for me. And then later on, I went to Imperial College London for my MBA degree. And then I stayed in London and continued to work there. But right now, I came back. I came back to GBA, came back to Macau, came back to Hong Kong because there is a market for us. And I think one of the most important things that I always tell people, people are always saying like China is scary. But then I'm telling them, look at me. China didn't ask me to come back to China. I could have stayed in UK, I could have stayed in Europe, but I came back. And all of my friends are the same. Most of them, I'm seeing more and more of my friends, studying in US, studying in UK after graduation. They come back to Hong Kong, obviously the tax is lower, come back to Macau, come back to GBA, because simply there are more job opportunities here. So yeah, education really changes everything.
Just a short comment on this education, and also I had a conversation with the Director General of the Foreign Affairs Office in Shenzhen. So we talked about the population of the foreigner population in Shenzhen in the year 2022. That time she said, oh, it dropped from 33,000 to 27,000 during the COVID. And then I met her again a few months ago and came back to this topic, said, how is the situation now? She said, oh yeah, now the population of the foreigner in Shenzhen has increased to 38,000. I said, oh, that's good. And she said mainly because of foreign students. So more foreign students came to Shenzhen. But then I also thought a little bit about the population of Shenzhen. We are talking about 20 million, and we have a tiny 0.0 something % of foreigners. So if you really want to push innovation in a multicultural society here in the GBA, we need a lot of more international students and people who are working here coming to the Greater Bay Area.
Yes, I think we all fully agree with this, and it's a part of our tradition that we feel that, yes, not only the GBA, but particularly Macau should have a much bigger, maybe foreign population because we do need more and more talents. Yes, foreign and non-foreign, actually.
Yeah.
Like you coming back. Yes. Okay, so maybe one more question. One last question.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this exciting discussion. I'm very excited to hear Marco here because I'm directly in the same field. So I actually want to also tell you that if you have friends who wants to work in a sustainable biotech company, then please refer to them to my company because we have places that we are growing. So that would be amazing. And yes, actually, I agree with everything that he says, and we have to start a really good ecosystem in Macau because I have been, telling this to everybody that Macau is a perfect place for circular economy innovation ecosystem where we can actually create multiple things from the waste, including your financial innovation. Using bonds and green bonds and blue bonds and biodiversity credits, and how you can source even architecture where Sajas, I have been trying to work with him on architectural features that can be done using waste. There's multiple ways in all different sectors. So I do hope you will spearhead this ecosystem and create something, and we can all have a wonderful diversification goal, actually.
Thank you, thank you. To answer in short, I do really agree. In Macau, actually there is a lot that we can do in terms of ESG and clean tech. So actually, for my degree at Imperial, actually I focus on clean tech, and I've done the CFA ESG and investing certificate as well. And the thing when I came back to Macau, what is the most shocking to me is no one talk about ESG. But in Hong Kong, it's slightly better because there's a listing rule. A lot of companies are listed in IPO, so even if they don't want to do ESG, they have to tick the box in order to do ESG. But in Macau, obviously, I acknowledge that there is a room of improvement. But I think, how can we improve that? Firstly, I think it's about within the university. Obviously, we have a lot of good professors, but most of them, I have to say, unfortunately, are doing a lot on academic citations or publishing papers. But we lack people who can work with industry, academic industry collaboration. So actually, right now, I'm the guest lecturer in Macau Polytechnic University in the AI Drug Discovery Center. What I'm trying to do is really to educate the professors, how to, tech transfer.
Yeah.
And then,
I have to say, within 2 years, I managed to get 9 different university collaborations. So
that's great. That's great. That's great.
It's happening. But it's slow.
Yeah, and then I think maybe just a final point. Maybe I think obviously Macau government have done a great job in having the FDCT, the science grant, which is helping professors to transfer their knowledge into something concrete. And I think we can do a lot more in that.
Thank you. And I would now move on to the final remarks, concluding remarks. In a nutshell, 1 minute of key takeaway, Rui, from this whole conversation, or something that you'd like to add.
What I would like to add is that I'm looking forward to next month's summit between the EU and China, hoping that the posture of EU will change a little bit And I can imagine it's very difficult from someone coming from the EU to change the chip from the situation with the United States and the kind of conversation that they need to have to the type of conversation that they need to have with China, which is completely different. But I hope they will be able to do that and find common ground and opportunities for cooperation, because I believe Europe needs that, China needs that, and the world deserves that. So I have great expectations for next month.
Thank you, Rui. Klaus.
Yeah, so we are here all in the Greater Bay Area, the European Chamber and all the chambers, national chambers. They are more than ever have to build the bridge, because of these times now what's happening in the world. So we are really here for a reason to help these, let's say, bring the people onto the table for the dialogue. And so that is something what we really have to push for. And it is, we learned also very important that we focus on education, that we have more opportunities for international, let's say, stamp in here in the GBA.
Thank you, Klaus. Xiaoying, bridges. We're building bridges, and there are exciting new bridges all the time in the Greater Bay Area, right? Shortening the distance, so almost on a monthly basis or so. What's your comment?
Yes, I think that first, I'm quite sure that the GBA is the most innovative, open up, and also most diversified place in China, at least. And I also think that there is a complementary between the GBA and the EU. Yeah, we are manufacturing, high tech, but we do need better education, better service. So there is a complementary role between GBA and the EU. And third, I totally agree that there should be more dialogue and person-to-person interactions. So hopefully, hope all you guys will go to the places in GBA in mainland China, and also we will have more chance to go to EU to know more about what's happening in EU. Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Thank you, Xiaoying. Marco.
Oh, thank you.
Your final take.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always.
Yes.
Oh, maybe George. Would
George.
you like to go first?
George, your final remarks from vantage point from Lisbon, connecting Macau, GBA, and Portugal and Europe. Your final comment on this conversation, or anything that you'd like to add?
As regards the summit, I think that Europe, there's no reason why Europe and China should not improve their relationship. Both have the strategic interest in doing that, especially at the time where Europe is definitely assuming the need to have complete strategic autonomy from the United States. There's no question today about that. So that will facilitate talks in the short term. Let's hope that the summit is the first case to rebuild the bridges in several subjects, and that it opens the door for follow-up talks. More important than that, though, is what has been mentioned by many of the participants, especially Marco and now the gentleman from the European Chamber of Commerce, which is the need to increase the number of concrete initiatives. It's not only people-to-people initiatives. There are many things that the Chambers of Commerce and similar entities can do, especially within geographical areas, because as Professor Xiaoli has very correctly mentioned, China. There are several Chinas, and there are if you want to do things in a specific area, especially in terms of business area and in terms of business sectors, it is important that initiatives are done by the Chambers of Commerce at that specific level, and in this case, at the Greater Bay Area level. And I think that those concrete initiatives mixed with the need of Europe to have more strategic autonomy, will definitely increase the possibility of seeing more positive features in the near future.
Thank you, George. Marco.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually very optimistic than ever about our Sino-Europe collaboration. I think often the very so-called geopolitical challenges are always due to misunderstanding. But once we clear this gap of misunderstanding, then we are all friends across the globe. For example, like my company, we are headquartered in the UK, headquartered in China. Every year we host at least 3 roadshows bringing European founders coming to China to have a look. And at the same time, right now in China, we always have the term 出海, China outbound, right? So a lot of Chinese maybe it's the first time, traveling to Europe, to explore the market there. And I think what we need is, more mutual dialogue between the two sides of the world, and also more exchanges between the two sides of the world. See it yourself, don't just look at the media, and I think we'll all be good friends and foster more collaborations. And today's platform is actually the great step that we are making together. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. I think that what we've seen today is really a case for optimism. I do agree that we heard about the need for dialogue, and to dialogue in the most different ways, and to be patient as well, because this will take some time. This will take some time. Just to, in a way, while I was listening to all of you, I was thinking about a kind of a kitchen or a restaurant serving slow food. Slow food is the best food. So we are cooking some slow food that eventually and hopefully will be a fantastic meal in the future, and that somehow the relations between China and you can actually come back to that kind of level that we used to know not so long ago. I used to say I am in this field of the EU-China relations for 25 years now, and I've lived through all that period of time. And most of those years were quite prolific and positive. And I do hope, and I think all of us, this is a message that we have here, we hope that this is going to happen again, but of course in a different setting and even better than before. So this is my short conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, José Luís Salles Marques. That is literally food for thought, and they're cooking our dinner over there next door. So, thank you very much. What an amazing evening. Thank you so much, Rui Pedro Cunha, Klaus Enkel, Li Xiaoying, Jorge Costa Oliveira, Marco Wai, José Salles Marques. Thank you, Professor Wu Mei, and all of you for joining us. This was the second installment of this series, and we'll be back for a third one. Stay tuned in the second half of the year. Thank you very, very much, and thank you very much, Rui Cunha Foundation, for the priceless and tireless support in this partnership. Thank you.